All right. Hello everybody. So today we are going to be doing something different. As you might remember, in my last video I went out and shot in the fog and the cold. I only showed you one day, but I actually did that for several days. And all of that getting in and out of the car, from the warmth of the car to the cold of outside. Yeah, I got sick, so I didn't have a chance. I laid in bed for like 3 or 4 days and I'm still recovering, so I didn't have a chance to go out and do any photography. But that doesn't mean that I didn't do anything for the last week. I've been working on a little project of mine that I wanted to talk to you about. So this is what I did. I made a few prints in the darkroom. This is the first time that I work in a darkroom in my whole life. But this is a very special darkroom. I like to call it the mobile darkroom. I do not use any negatives or enlargers or anything like that. It's very, very basic. And it's still an ongoing project. I have to improve many steps of the process, but I wanted to share it with you, even though it's not a complete project or process just yet, because many of you have a lot of experience with darkrooms, and maybe you have some suggestions, advice, tips or ideas for me about how to improve or make this better. And I would love to hear from you if you think that I can improve some of this process. So let's talk about it. I'm gonna give you first some context of why I did what I did, and then I'm gonna tell you what I did and how I got to these prints. So as I said, I had a lot of time to think this week, and of course I was thinking about photography, and more specifically about that final step that is arguably the most important step in photography, that is to move your image from a screen or a negative and onto a final print, something that is physical and you can touch and you can look at. I do not do enough of that. As you might know, I delegate that final step on the prints that I sell on my website. They are done by a professional lab, like this one, that, by the way, this is the one that is on sale this month. It's called Awakening City. It's a long exposure of Chicago and Lake Michigan. You can check it out on the link in the description down below. But yeah, this is made by professionals in a professional lab. I've had terrible experiences with printers in the past. Seriously, I almost gave up on printers. That's why for the longest time, I've wanted to try a darkroom and a more traditional process to print my images. The problem with the darkroom, and the same applies to printers really, is that they require some space. You need a room to build a darkroom. You need at least an office or a little table to put the printer on. And that's something that we do not have. As you might know, we are right now in Spain, but we don't really live here. This is not our permanent home. We're gonna keep traveling. So yeah, we don't know where we're gonna be in a few months from now. So I do not really feel good about making a big investment in both money and time on building a darkroom or buying a high quality printer, because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to take full advantage of those things in a few months' time. That's why I always thought that digital negatives were the way to go for me. Have a very, very basic darkroom and use digital negatives to contact print from them. For those of you who don't know what digital negatives is, the idea is instead of exposing film and getting the negatives that way, you just print them with a printer. And you use them to do contact printing. Contact printing is when you put the negative next to the paper and you just with a light source, you expose the paper with the negative on top and you get your final image. So you don't need an enlarger and you don't need to do any dodge or burning or stuff like that. You can do it in Photoshop on the computer and then print it on the negative. The problem, of course, is that you need to print them, so you need a printer. So we are back at square one, so that doesn't solve my problem at all. This week though, I'm doing some research about digital negatives. I came across a video from some guy. I'm gonna link the video around here somewhere. So this guy was using his iPhone with an enlarger. He was just placing the iPhone in the enlarger and that would project the image, the negative, using the iPhone as a light source too, onto the paper. I thought that it was a pretty cool idea. I don't know if it was the fever or something like that, but I put the two things together, what I was thinking about digital negatives and contact printing from digital negatives and using an iPhone in a darkroom, and I thought that maybe, just maybe, I could do some contact printing using an iPhone, or even better, using an iPad. So my idea was to display a negative on the iPad like this and use it for contact printing. I could just place the iPad on top of the paper and the image would get exposed that way. I just needed to find a way to actually make the screen of the iPad black while I, place the iPad on top of the paper so the paper doesn't get exposed all over. Then show or display the negative for an amount of seconds depending on the exposure I was going for, and then go black again. Thankfully, as some of you might know as well, I'm a computer engineer, so I made this little app that all it does is just literally that. The screen goes black and then it shows, that gives me a few seconds to place the iPad on top of the paper, and then it shows the negative. It is already doing it. You cannot see it because the brightness is all the way down. So I was very, very, very excited about it, and that same day I ordered everything I needed and I didn't have for the darkroom. I just got a few trays and the tongs and the chemicals and some paper and the light safe and everything, and I was very excited and ready to start experimenting with iPad contact printing. Once I got all I needed, I started immediately doing some tests. This is my first ever print in the darkroom. I know it's not anything incredible, but I'm very proud of this one. When I saw it, I got really excited. As you can see, I tweaked the app, so I did like different test strips because I had no idea about what brightness to use on the iPad for how long, so I needed to do like a test strip. And when I saw this print being developed in the tray, I got so excited, like, oh my god, I am onto something here. I thought that it was going to work. I was playing with the levels and the curves in Photoshop too, because it was my first time using, like, this is actually a digital negative. It's not printed on a negative, but it's a digital negative. So I was playing with the levels and the curves in Photoshop to see the different results. But I realized pretty soon on this experiment that there was something off here that was not quite working. You can see it clearly in this image, and is that the images were kind of blurry. At first I thought that it was something to do with the exposure, that I was using too much brightness or too little, but no, I quickly realized that the problem was something else. So what I did is I placed the iPad a little bit farther away from the paper to check what effect that would have, and of course it was even blurrier, even more out of focus. So that told me that what I needed to do was to put the iPad even closer to the paper, and I thought that it was impossible. I mean, it's got the contact printing, and then I felt so stupid and so disappointed when I realized that the problem is that between the pixels of the iPad, between the actual digital negative and the paper, there is something, and it's called glass. It's very thin. I don't know how thin that glass is, very little, but it was enough to make all the images come out completely blurry. Then I tried with my iPhone, as you can see, to make sure that maybe, I don't know, I thought that the iPhone could have like a thinner glass or something, and it could work better. And yeah, it worked a little bit better, I think, but no, it's still blurry. So I was very frustrated, disappointed, and feeling pretty stupid. I remembered I was sick doing all this because I didn't think about this. I didn't think about the glass and the distance between the pixels and the paper. So the next day I woke up still sick, but feeling a little bit better, so I decided to give this a little bit more of thought, and I was thinking about solutions, possible solutions to fix this. How could I focus this image? How could I make the image from the iPad focus on the paper properly? And I thought that the only way to do this, of course, is using a lens. But I would have to use like a really big lens to cover the whole iPad. And then I started thinking maybe I could build with cardboard like a cone that focuses all the light in just one small lens that I could use. I have plenty of manual lenses, home 35mm lenses that I could use to then focus that image on the paper. But then I realized that what I could be doing at that point is just, I would be just building an enlarger with cardboard, but at the end it would be an enlarger that I would have to keep and store somewhere. It would probably break all the time because it would be made of cardboard, blah blah. So yeah, that was not going to work. And then I remember something that I had seen a few weeks before. You guys might know Intrepid, the camera company. They make large format cameras, and they came up with this idea a few weeks ago. That is, they released like a light with a timer, and the idea is to place the light on the back of your large format camera and use your their large format cameras an enlarger, because that's basically what an enlarger is, right? At the time, I thought that it was a very cool idea, and I immediately thought about, you know, placing the iPad on the back of the large format and using the large format camera as an enlarger. You could focus with the lens, so you could focus the image coming from the iPad on the paper, and that would work. The thing is, I don't have a large format camera, and I don't really want to shoot large format, so if I buy a large format camera just for this, it would be just for this, just for printing. So it would be pretty much like buying an enlarger for printing, and that's what I was trying to avoid from the very beginning, so it was not going to work. And that's when the real light bulb moment happened, because I realized that all this time I already had something very similar. Of course, I'm talking about the Bronica. It's always about the Bronica. You know, guys, that I love this camera. I love using it. I have a video, a review that I made of this camera not too long ago. I'm gonna link it somewhere around here, so if you don't know about this camera, you can know a little bit more. But man, I realized that this one has a film back that you can, you know, take off this way, and what do you get? You get a hole with a lens at the end of it, a lens that you can actually focus. So this was the perfect enlarger. It would be the same idea that Intrepid had with their large format cameras, but with a much smaller, a much more compact form. My original idea of using the iPad wasn't going to work because the screen is too big for this hole. I didn't really want to mess with big pieces of cardboard or something like that. But my iPhone fits perfectly on the back of the Bronica. It's just incredible. The solution to my problem was in front of me all this time. And this is why I'm calling this the Mobile Darkroom, not only because I already have it with me and I can bring it with me everywhere. This is my enlarger, this is my digital negative and my light source. And, you know, it projects the image on the paper. I can focus in here. Oops. But I'm calling it Mobile Darkroom also because, of course, this is a mobile phone. I had this idea and I immediately ran to my darkroom, bathroom, and I started doing some tests. And from the... don't want to break my camera slash enlarger. But from the very beginning I knew this was going to work much better because the images, even in these little test strips, were sharp, in focus, much sharper than before. I was so relieved, and then I started tweaking the app. The app for the phone is different than from the iPad. The paper is not big enough for that, but I think as a test it's just okay. I do not have all the materials in here, man. So yeah, these are some of the images that I got. Let's take a look. So this was the first one that I made with the Mobile Darkroom. I wanted to try to test the tones of the sky. As you can see, they are pretty good, not quite there yet though. These branches of these trees are totally in focus and they are pretty sharp. Just keep in mind that all of this comes from the screen of a phone. This is not sharp, but I do not think this has anything to do with the phone. I think that the highlights are a little bit blown out here, so I have to tweak the curves a little bit more, as I said. And I also think that this was out of focus because the Bronica was not completely leveled. So yeah, that's something that I need to work on. But these branches here in the center is they are completely sharp and they look pretty good to me. The reason why I wanted to print this image is because it has a wide range of tones. Here you can see from brighter to darker, and all of them, they were rendered. I really like how it came out. I don't know, it looks pretty good to me. It's sharp, not that sharp, it's not completely in focus. That was my fault, I was not focusing right with the Bronica, but I believe that if I come up with a better way to focus, it will look much better. But the tones are gorgeous, in my opinion. At least I have to tweak a little bit the highlights here because they are almost completely white, but otherwise it looks just so good. Another image here, this horse. Once again, I was testing. These are very hard, in my opinion, prints, because they go from very, very dark to brighter, and the horse was almost completely white, but it still has details. They are a little bit blown out there, the highlights, but tweaking this image just a little bit more in Photoshop, I'm pretty sure that I could make it work and get a good print out of this. So this image shows some of the problems that I've been having because of my lack of experience in the darkroom. Here, as I said, I think I said this, I use the wider aperture on the lens of the Bronica 2.8 to focus, because you know, you can see the image better. But then when I do the exposure, it's at f8, but in this time I forgot to move the aperture from 2.8 to 8, so this image is overexposed by 3 stops. But still, it kept the detail pretty good. I didn't want to print it again because I didn't have too much paper. This one, once again, as you can see, I'm trying like very high contrasty images, and this one looks so good. I want to make a print of this one. I really like it. I know maybe in the camera this looks like completely white, but it's not. You can see the difference here between the border that is real white and the wall, so there is some detail there, some texture. I really like this, and this is gonna be one of the prints. I wanted to show this one because this is another problem that can happen when you use the phone as a digital negative and you forget to set the airplane mode on. Is that I got a notification here. Yeah, it got exposed in the paper, but if you don't look at the notification, this image once again was, in my opinion, pretty hard because it has a lot of tones, has a lot of layers from very dark to very bright, and it still kept all the detail everywhere. So it's very cool that this works. This one I didn't expose it right. I'm not really sure what the mistake was here. Maybe there was some light leak somewhere, but yeah, but the photo still looks fine. It's sharp, the tree is sharp, so yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm mixing here, I didn't mention that, but some of these images, like for example this one was made on film, this one is digital. So this is pretty cool that I have a process. This is something that I really like. I have a process where the prints look pretty similar no matter if I make them on film or digital. That's one of the reasons why my post-processing for the scans make the images from digital and film look pretty similar as well, because it's something that I do not want the tools to dictate the way I work. I wanna... all right, you see, that's a problem with the... But yeah, as I said, I do not want the tools to dictate the way I work. I'm gonna tell the tools the way I wanna work, and that's why I am very proud of having a process that gives me both digital images and prints that look very similar no matter if I make them on film or digital, because that way I'm free to use whatever I want, because I know I can get the result that I want. So then I moved to people and animals, just 2 more prints. I wanted to test this, how they would look. And this one is a little bit overexposed here, the highlights. Once again, I think I have to do much more experimentation with that. But this one is my absolute favorite. The highlights are very well controlled here. The image is, in my opinion, very sharp. Again, it's very hard to focus with the Bronica. If I come up with a better process for focusing, this image will look even better. But the tones, everything about this photo, seriously, you show me this photo and you tell me that it was printed from the screen of a phone, I wouldn't believe you. This photo looks very good, and that's why I'm so happy and so excited about this process. As you can see, the images are not perfect, and pretty much every step in this process needs some improvement. This is where your ideas could come very handy, but I need to find a better way to focus. I think I already know the solution for that. I need to build with some kind of cardboard, like a basic easel, you know, to actually flatten the paper and do the window where I'm gonna print the 6x6 image. That's the size that I'm targeting at. And yeah, I need to maybe build a more stable holder for the phone on top of the camera. Many things that I need to do. I'm gonna be experimenting with all of that this week. I already got more paper coming my way. In this time it's gonna be fiber paper, matte paper that I think I'm actually gonna like a lot. Bigger paper too. So I'm gonna be making my first final serious images prints next week, and hopefully in 7 days I will have a video here showing you the whole process, a more refined and polished process. Yeah, I am very excited about this because I still need chemicals and I still need a few trays, but that's all. Everything else I already have with me, well, and the light safe, but everything else I already have with me, the phone and the Bronica as the enlarger. I do not need to have a dedicated room where the enlarger can live or anything like that. I can just do it in the bathroom, close everything up because there's just one window, and within 5 minutes everything is ready to start printing. So I am very excited about this. It's working, and yeah, I just wanted to share this little project with you guys. As again, if you have any ideas, suggestions, tips or anything for me to improve this process, please go ahead and leave a comment down below. And I just wanted to know your opinion about all this. You think this is silly? You think it's cool? What do you think? But yeah, this is all I had for today. This week I'm gonna be going out now that I feel a little bit better. So this Wednesday's video is gonna be from the field, and then I will finish the part number 2 of the Mobile Darkroom will come next Sunday. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.